I felt today that the possibility of what can come from these different experiences and backgrounds and way of exploration is delicious to me. I can't find any other word that is more delicious than this word.
Welcome to Exploring Resonance. My name is Edward Wertz. I'm here with Faten Qalawi, Elizabeth Sabet, and Thomas Whitmire. We're friends, and we'll be your regular hosts for this podcast series. This is the first episode, and in the first episode, we'll have a slightly different format. Our regular format will be 2 parts. We'll check in with a life update from each of us of what's going on. And then we will have an open dialogue on the topic and dovetail the topic between our check-ins and the topic. And it should be a bunch of fun for each of us. But today's episode is focused on who are we and what is this podcast? So what we'll do is each person will give an introduction to who they are, what they're about. And then the rest of us will engage that and explain how we resonate with that person. Is there anybody that would like to introduce themselves first? All right, Faten told me. My name, like I said, was Edward Wertz. I am midlife, I would say, 45 through normal life expectancy. I have 2 kids. And I have 3 dogs and a wife. Kids are in high school, and it's been a roller coaster of life to adapt to being a father and accepting that as my role and identity. I think I've fully accepted the fact that I'm a father at this point when they're almost out the door. So that's a huge part of my identity. And I am a computer scientist. I have a PhD in computer science. Spent 9 months birthing that effort. And it was a fair chunk of time. I have worked in a variety of interesting places. I've worked for a defense contractor, L3Harris. I'm currently working for a company called Hashgraph, and we built the Hedera crypto ledger. And so my background is very meandering. I went to Carnegie Mellon University, and while I was there, I ran into a group of spiritual seekers belonging to an organization called TAT, which stands for Truth in Transmission. And in that group, I like to say that they kind of laid the foundation for my perspective and understanding in spirituality. I really resonate with the teachings of Richard Rose, who created that organization. And so in between 2002 and 2004, I just graduated from college. I was part of the organization, got into the workforce, and did some spiritual seeking, very intense spiritual seeking, had some satori's that I'll talk about in the future, possibly. And then kind of had a life reset. And I quit my job, moved back home, and kind of started over. That's when I met Elizabeth Sabet. We did a lot of community building through an effort called HOPE, which stands for Holistic Options for People Everywhere. And that took us, I think it had a 12-year lifespan. I'm guesstimating. That's the number that sticks in my head. But HOPE was a journey of building kind of like alt spirituality community where we would invite people to present on their topics, anything from crystals to holistic medicine to astrology. And in the background of conservative Lubbock, Texas, this was a pocket of breath of fresh air that we could all breathe into and feel like we could survive amidst the more conservative cultural background. So it was a great exploration, once a month potlucks, and that built a community. Life, after close to my graduation, life took me away from Lubbock, and I've been exploring non-local community, online dialoguing with friends, and that's how I met Faten and Thomas. Thomas shares a background with me in association with TAT, and Faten I met through my online dialogue effort, and we've been good friends ever since. So, is there more about myself I should explain? I'm in transition. I've been in transition for a few years of trying to shift priorities in my life. I'm working ordinary jobs, but what I would like to get into is community building at a larger scale. Part of my movement from a defense contractor to a crypto company is spiritual facilitation in the sense of not world peace through carrying a big stick, but world peace through realizing our economic interdependence with each other. So archetypally, it was a huge shift. And I'm trying to explore now this facet of podcasting. I'm developing my own individual podcast. I'm going to start projects and things like that. So we're here exploring this all together. And for me, this is a profound transformation of the way I'm relating to my own existence, to life in general. So appreciate all of you taking this journey with me. All right. So in our format, we're going to now open the floor for what brings you guys into this podcast. You know, what is it that resonates with you about me?
Edward, I'll start. And how I resonate with you. That's where we're going next, right? Yeah. So I have to go back to the first time that we met. So in December of 2005, I wanted to start a study group on the teachings of enlightenment by Dr. David R. Hawkins, and start that study group in Lubbock, just to have people. I've been studying his work and just wanted people of like mind that I could share this journey with, this exploration. So I put up a notice in a coffee shop, and Edward walked through the door, and at that time, he looked like a Viking, right? Big bushy hair, big bushy beard, and it was like a Viking just walked into and you have that energy as well, you know, just very, very, very interesting, you know, very bold, but very gentle, commanding, but not commanding. How would you put that? Commanding, but allowing space for others to be as well. It was a very interesting energy. And then that was almost 20 years ago, right? In December, it'll be 20 years. And so, as you said, we've had a journey of, you know, working on different projects together and staying connected and being a part of each other's journey over this 20 years, even after you left Lubbock. And you are one of the safe men in my life. You're not just somebody who's physically safe to be around, but you're also someone who's emotionally and mentally safe to be around. I experience a deep sense of safety and permission to be myself in your presence. And the way I experience you is this allowing space, very little judgment. Perhaps in the beginning there was more judgment, but over the 20 years, I've definitely experienced you being much more curious, and your curiosity about people has taken over your first perceptions. And that's been, very interesting for me to observe that in the way that you've evolved over the last 20 years. And so we've both witnessed each other's evolution, and the messiness of it all. And I'm so happy for you at where you are in life now, having watched you struggle internally, with all of the shoulds of life, and find your way in it, and find yourself, and find your mission and your purpose and your reason for being after all these years and where you're at now. So the way I experience you now is inspired. I'm motivated by you being in your presence, motivated by your brilliant mind, and the way that I experience your mind is seeing like a whole system all at once, and being capable of analyzing whole systems all at once, and then trying to break it down for the rest of us to understand. And that's like one of your amazing skills. And I love to experience you explaining things because you do it so well. And I love you.
Thank you. I'm deeply honored. Thank you very much.
Hi, Edward. Can you guys hear me okay? I don't know how strongly my mic is. Thank you. I appreciate your feedback and all that for Edward. I actually only met Edward about 4 years ago, I believe, during COVID. And correct me if I'm misremembering, Edward. Strangely, because I'll loop back to it when I do my introduction. But we had I guess you'd say a near miss or a near hit 15, 20 years ago, and weren't quite in the same room at the same time. But met each other again 4 or 5 years ago when Edward was exploring the non-local community, kind of like what we're doing right now, except now we have a record button with some adaptations and adjustments. So Edward, I would agree with a lot of what Elizabeth has said. There's very few people in my life I've met who I really don't feel are have some little wires of criticism or judgment or, opinions on how I am or how other people are. And you're one of the most receptive, compassionate people I've met. And it's really a valuable thing to have and a valuable way to be as you've created and repurposed and redeveloped different spiritual groups over the years. So just like Elizabeth, I feel very comfortable with you. I feel very much embraced, and you're nurturing and you tend to people in a way, not only practically as a human, but I generally feel your etheric body is always doing tending work for other people, and it's a very special presence. So I appreciate you pulling us all together here and sticking with it. And I'm very honored to be here with you as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I thank you both. I think I'm not going to repeat everything that has been said because it's also true for me. So that stands. And I also have not known Edward for more than 5 years. I think I was invited to join the non-local community as well, which is the space that you've created online. And I loved that it was non-local community. It was a community online for all like-minded people coming together beyond the limitations of borders and geography and wherever could be the limitation. And that is something that I really resonate with. It's one of the things that I resonated with to start with when we're talking about resonance. I think it's one of the blessings of the technology that providing this, which is your area of expertise. I love that you also are into technology and you used it that way to create such spaces, such safe spaces and freedom, places of freedom, of exploration. And I really resonated with that to start with, that the fact that you started that. And then when I entered that space with you, I resonated more and more with the way things unfolded in these spaces. Again, being held with a lot of compassion, not judgmental, but also there is such, how can I say, these spaces were very spacious, literally. So they could, how can I say this? They're welcoming. And there's a lot of space there for exploring wherever comes into that space. So I really resonate with that. I resonate with you on that level. Of course, as you introduced yourself, I resonate with a lot of things. I resonate with the parenthood part, definitely. I also resonate with the seeking. I saw you from the beginning as a seeker. And that is something I resonate with because in my own life path, I've always feel like I was born a seeker, and you continue to be a seeker. And I think these spaces are welcoming for seekers. So it's a celebration actually of being a seeker. And there is a lot of seeking that happens and welcoming for seekers here. And seekers on all levels, but more specifically on a spiritual and existential big questions that not only can be explored in that capacity, but the spaces that you're creating, and even in this podcast, I feel it can distill and bring the exploration from what seems to be like an upper realm into the application of everyday life. And I really resonate with that. And I have to say, it's one of the strengths that you bring into those spaces. And there is a co-weaving that you invite people in these spaces to step into. And it's a conscious kind of co-weaving into consciousness. And that's, again, something that is, there's a lot of, I think that the word resonance actually is what happens in these spaces now that you're speaking about it. I also want to say that I resonate a lot with your, I want to say your steadfastness in pursuing growth and transformation. Like, you don't give up on this, and it's a great quality, but it's also the quality of the spaces that are being created in these communities, and it is community oriented as well. There's a lot of community orientation, which makes this very relational, where I see that steadfastness actually cannot be fostered, or it cannot be nurtured and nourished and nourishing in absence of community. And I see you again, and I resonate with this in this attitude towards building communities, and communities that can actually go through these processes that take place in these spaces. I also I resonate with your scientific mind. I think that it's, it is beautiful to see, and maybe it's a signature also of this time in life, in human life. I'm sure it was at a certain time, but maybe we missed it. But it's here now, which is the inclusion of, or inclusivity of, or the coming together of science and spirituality. So this presentation of the coming together of science and spirituality, the scientific mind that you have. I mean, I know you're a programmer, and I know you have so many. You are so rooted and oriented scientifically, and that I really resonate with that. I see it in the way you approach and you think of things and you present things, but also it's not just science, but it's also very how can I say, adaptable and very welcoming of spirituality as well, and they come together beautifully. It's, to me, this is the ultimate of tantric practices, really. So, and And I really resonate with that. I mean, there's so much more, but I'm going to stop here for now. And yeah, and thank you for making this possible.
Wow. Thank you. That was not scripted at all. Really appreciate the impact that I've made. So thank you very much. All right. Who wants to go next? Who can we talk about next?
All right. So, gosh, I would have to say that, so first of all, I'm 60. I will be 60 this summer, so I'm just getting used to saying it now. My body's been on the planet for 60 years. I'm very grateful for that. I have many loved ones that didn't make it to 40. And so I'm really grateful. And so I'm midlife for the normal life expectancy of 120 years old. And I'm living a whole new life right now, and that I'm super grateful for. And I'll share about that in a minute. But so my journey as a young person was pretty rocky, from a very unstable, dysfunctional family. It was just probably pretty common. But I had a lot of awarenesses energetically as pre-verbal. I have pre-verbal memories of seeing people's energy and feeling it. The first time I spoke about it, I was 5, and had many nonlinear, non-ordinary experiences as a young person, and those that desire to understand God was really important to me. I was raised Catholic, and I did not understand God. And it really kind of started when I was 9, when I left my body for the first time. And I didn't understand where I was when I left my body. But many decades later, I realized they had taken me to Texas Tech University in Lubbock, Texas. And I was like, why did they take me to Texas Tech University when I was 9? And that will come later too, maybe in some story. But I remember going to CCD, which is the Catholic, children's kind of Sunday school, except it's on Wednesdays. And they were saying, only the, Catholics were going to go to heaven. And there was a picture on the wall, and it says, Jesus loves them all, yellow, red, black, and white, which, it was the 70s. And that's how people described people of color, red, yellow, black, and white. And, but then they were telling me that, only Catholics were going to go to heaven. And it was like, well, if they're Chinese and they're not Catholic, are they still, which is right. I just knew I was being lied to, and I just knew that it wasn't the truth. So I asked for a Bible for Christmas when I was 9 and started reading the Bible from the beginning. And, at 9, I'm really reading the Bible. I'm really trying to understand it, and read it from cover to cover. And of course, I was 9. It still didn't make a lot of sense, but I was seeking at 9. And so I started out with very humble beginnings. I started working in the fields at the age of 14. And started washing dishes and waiting tables in a truck stop to help my mother make ends meet. I was the oldest of 4 children. And when they divorced and my father didn't pay child support, she was on her own as a waitress in the 70s, making $1 something an hour plus tips. And so I feel like that time kind of saved me from the worst of the behaviors that I could have gotten into during that time. And also, it was a very interesting time spiritually, because I was, from the age of 13, started being contacted by others on the other side. The first one being my stepfather's infant daughter, who was killed in a car accident when she was a baby, which none of us knew about except my mother. And so that was a really interesting time as far as spiritual development was concerned, because of course, being Catholic, that's bad. You're not supposed to be talking to spirits. And as I became an adult and married and had children, really the most important thing for me was to be a good mother. That was really all I wanted in life, was to be a mother and to be a good mother and to do it differently for my children, which in some ways I did and in some ways I didn't. But underneath it all was this desire to be close to God. And my husband was not comfortable with all of my spiritual gifts, my being able to see the future. And I started what I called quantum time jumping at 19 and 20, where, I would literally be sitting someplace, and then next thing I know, everything is different in that space. And then, it started out 2 hours later, what I experienced would happen. Then 24 hours later, it would happen. And so it was very interesting. I was going forward in time in just my normal waking hours, having conversations with people. And then 24 hours later, the exact scenario plays out. So it was a very interesting and kind of prolific time. But my husband was very concerned that I was going to make our children weird. And he made me promise that I would not make our children weird. And so in my early 20s, I just asked God to make it all stop, just make it all stop. And God did. And I got to be a young mother, taking care of her children, working, and raising my, little family, and did that until my very best friend from childhood, who we stayed friends forever, committed suicide when I was 29 or 30, I think 29. So there were two things that happened. I started looking for God outside of Christianity. I couldn't find the God that I could experience in a church. So I started exploring other Christian faiths and Buddhism, and started learning how to meditate by reading Buddhist books. I had no teacher. So I started meditating from 23 to 29. And at 29, something really shifted. I also had an experience of, I decided to fast because I was getting really frustrated that I was not understanding what God is. And so I would go home during my lunch hour and not eat, and just call the name of God out loud for 45 minutes and asking God to come to me so I could understand God better. And so I fasted for 3 days, and during my lunch hour, called the name of God. And on the third day, I saw a wave come to me, kind of arm's length, and then bam, hit me in the chest. And it still took me quite a long time to unpack all of that, but I was at peace. I had instant peace, and I knew that something about God had met me. Unfortunately, though, that was started an unprepared and unsupported Kundalini awakening for me. And I did not know what a Kundalini awakening was until my, early 40s. I did not know what was happening to me. I started losing my sense of identity. I didn't know who I was anymore. All the things that I had worked for with my husband, we owned a business together, and everything that we had built, we started out with really very little. And we had done very well together, both working hard in different jobs in the beginning, and then in businesses together. And none of it made sense anymore. And I couldn't connect to it, and I couldn't connect to him, and he couldn't connect to me. And we both started resenting each other, as unfortunately those things happen. And I filed for divorce. And that is when I met Edward in 2005. And that's when I was like, I quit working because I gave the businesses to my husband. And I was fortunate enough to not to have to work for 2 years. And I sat in meditation for 3 to 4. It ended up becoming 3 to 4 hours at a time. I would go into meditation. Again, without an ashram or a teacher, that was probably not the best thing to happen, although that was another prolific time of growth. Anyway, so much of life, so many lessons learned. And, the problem with an unsupported, unprepared for an unsupported Kundalini awakening, I discovered, is that, you have these, the space of peace and and some of the cities that are, traditionally talked about can occur naturally. But the shadow work hasn't been done. There was still more psychological development that I needed to do. And, trauma healing and trauma work and just basic psychological development, that I missed from my early childhood and my teenage years. So on one hand, there was all of this incredible spiritual access and understanding and peace. And then in the subconscious, there was all this turmoil that slowly started getting, coming to the surface after having been repressed and suppressed. So it certainly wasn't an easy journey, to say the least. However, through my work with Hope, with Edward, I think Hope really grew me. Hope gave me the opportunity to express myself in ways that I hadn't been able to before. And I eventually became a coach because it kind of married my previous profession so well. And I remember the place that I worked when I was young was a family restaurant on one side and a bar on the other. And I remember sitting up at the bar when I was, 14, honest to God, 14, 15 years old, sitting up there with all the farmers and, the truckers and whoever were sitting at the bar, helping them solve their problems, talking to them about their life problems and helping them. And it was so interesting. I'll never forget that time of life. So it was like becoming a coach really married everything together. And through Hope, and then I worked and volunteered with an organization called the American Center for the Integration of Spiritually Transformative Experiences as well, where we supported spiritual experiencers and mental health professionals and educated mental health professionals on that topic. So these last 20 years of my life have been so full and so fruitful. And I'm at this time in life where I'm really giving myself permission to explore the world the way I want to, currently in Tahiti, and been traveling around and will continue to do so, and just enjoy the journey and enjoy meeting people from around the world and seeing how people live and appreciating people from everywhere. And I'm so grateful to you, Edward, for bringing Thomas and Faten and I together. They've truly enriched my life, as you have as well. So thanks. Sorry, went on a bit.
This is great. I get to hear stories from people I know pretty well, but new stories as well. This is very fun. Thank you, Elizabeth, for sharing. I also met Elizabeth just a handful of years ago, 4 or 5. It's all the COVID years all sort of blur together into one block, but it was somewhere in there. And you'll have to remind me exactly. I mostly associate being your student now from school, although I know I knew you before them.
Yeah, we met through Edward for some meetings of some kind, but I can't remember which one
Yeah,
now.
I first knew of you from Assist, the online spiritual experience organization.
Oh, okay.
And I think I might have read some of your posts, and you might have replied to some of mine. And I remember thinking you seem pretty interesting. So I'm so lucky here these years later. I'm speaking with you live. Anyway, so Elizabeth, you're definitely a teacher to me. You're an inspiration. You just so much about you. I find grateful both to have someone who can serve as a mentor and someone whose example of everything you've been through and the struggles to go through that and the struggle to express it and synthesize it and be of service using your gifts that you've had and that you've developed over all of these years, both the leaning into them and at times the pulling away from them, because I know it can be overwhelming. And as we're all sharing stories, I'm really struck by how little I knew about some of the things in common that people have that go through spiritual awakenings, and the way that you've been able to help them. So there's just, you're an example of acts of service, an example of keeping it real during this process, and also one of the most gifted and amazing open teachers and spiritual students I've met. So I feel very lucky to have gotten to know you. And thank you so much. And for being my teacher as well, formally for a couple of years during your coaching school. So it's a true blessing. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you. My God, you're going to make me blush. Thank you. Thank you. I love you, Thomas.
So Elizabeth, we've known each other, almost 20 years. But it feels like lifetimes. We have a very strong rapport, ease of being around each other that I've truly appreciated. And you have opened your house to so many people, and you have been a leader in community and a leader in facilitation of spiritual integration for so many people. And I can honestly say I don't know anyone who has a more honest and purity of intent with how you relate to people, and the care that you show for the spiritual soul of others, and you've dedicated your life in service of facilitation of people healing, of your own healing journey, and being a servant to the highest in each of us. So I really appreciate the example that you have been for my life as well. I'm a few years behind you in terms of archetypal life path. I'm still living with my kids. You've sent your kids on the way, but so we've been together in that process. I was there when we started Hope. You discovered the work of Stanislav Grof and the Stormy Search for Self and spiritual emergence as a terminology. You stepped away from Hope as a leadership role, and we were all kind of relying on you for guidance and being proactive and stewardship and things like that. So when you stepped away, Hope kind of had to find itself, its own identity or dissipate, and it eventually dissipated, but that's fine, a natural life cycle. And you went on your path, which was you became the president of the board of Assist, and help them focus their mission on serving people who were going through spiritual integration crises. When we have these non-ordinary experiences and we're trying to adapt to our life, right? You yourself have had extraordinary experiences. And so the example you have of how you have normalized those experiences in your life and your understanding and learned to live with them and come back to the ordinary life and live amongst us as in a balanced way, in an integrative way, in a way that facilitates the other's integration. It's just been a tremendous example to me. So really appreciate knowing you. I feel like we are very aligned in how we want the effect that we want to have on others. So, it's been a blessing. You are my best friend in this life. So appreciate that. And the through the coaching school, while it may not have had lots of people come through the doors, the impact that you've had on every one of your students has been profound. And the impact that you've had on me as, teacher to student has been profound as well. I feel like that after the coaching school, I finally reached what I was striving for in terms of, I guess I'll use the word cleaning up the way I was relating to people. And the model of coaching is a very powerful modality for relating from one person to another with unconditional positive regard, which was in the coaching material. So being able to orient around that helped me clean up some of my rough edges. So I really appreciate the program that you put together and what it facilitated in our lives. I know not everybody can afford to do a huge program like that, but if anybody's listening and you want a transformative experience, go through Elizabeth's coaching school. You will be transformed. So there's that. And I just want to say, you've been a lifelong friend, and I've been looking forward to the opportunities that we would have to be able to collaborate together in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Edward. I love you so.
So, hi, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for sharing your stories and your life story here. There's a lot that I didn't know, and I am more than happy and pleased and honored to get to know and hear from you about your journey. I think I know you not as much as Edward and Thomas know you in this, in terms of interacting practically in this life, but I feel that I know you on a soul level from a very, very long time. I'm going to concentrate on the way I resonate with everything that you've said because I don't know you the way Edward and Thomas know you. So first of all, I just turned 60 last month. So actually in December. So I really resonate with the 60 thing happening here. Lots. Like you, I'm very, very grateful. I resonate with being grateful to be on this earth and one of the lucky ones that are healthy and having had the chance to actually go through this journey and be at this point and in relation to transformation and service. And I really resonate with all of this. And I have deep regard and deep, how can I say, respect. And I deeply appreciate people, all of us who have walked this path and in this spot here. And also the ones who are trying to as well. But it's a blessing. And I'm grateful for it as well. I'm grateful for you doing that. You spoke about other things in your journey that I feel that I really resonate with. You spoke about pre-verbal memories. And I really felt a lot of resonance with that. Like I have a lot of pre-verbal memories. And experiences of going somewhere, like out-of-body experiences along my life, going somewhere. I might not have come back with clear memories of specific entities that I have or beings that I've been with, but I know that I have gone to places and come back with certain insights or with altered perception. And many of those happened at early years where I couldn't really understand, but I feel that I resonate with the curiosity rather than the being afraid of it. You expressed being curious about it. It's like, why? Where did I go? Why did they take me there? And, the way you put that question, I felt the same curiosity and not fear around it. So I resonate with that as well. And thank you for sharing that. It makes me feel like very affirmed and like, there is a sense of friendship and companionship in that space, because I think a lot of people who go through these, or I feel like a lot of people who have experienced this, one of the hardest things is to feel alone in these experiences and not be sure that there are others actually who have or who are experiencing such thing. And I'm grateful for this space that allows us to share this in a way that is reassuring rather than a way that is jarring or scary or even uprooting or, ungrounding. So I'm really grateful that you shared that, and to the attitude that you share with it all of your connections with the other realms. I share this maybe in different, I resonate with this, not in the exact same details, but in the content of it, of being in touch with other realms and somehow being in this space between a few realms and building those bridges between those realms. I was with you in the workshop that you did with a co-worker with you around, psychospiritually prepping medicine spaces for medicine experiences. And I really resonated with that on so many levels. I continue to. This, and you speak of this, the way you have employed your talents and brought them in to help people navigate those spaces safely. So I appreciate that, and I resonate with that a lot. As a shamanic practitioner and as a depth hypnosis practitioner, as a spiritual counselor, I really resonate with all of that. I resonate a lot with the seeking. I mean, just like with Edward, I think this is a space where there is this seeking from a very young age. And again, I appreciate that. I resonate with it. And what else did I want to talk about? I mean, yeah, when you spoke about the spiritual emergency, I mean, when you describe the spiritual emergencies that you've went through without even knowing that you were maybe, or identifying the spiritual emergency, going through the Kundalini experiences. And I mean, this is valuable. Thank you for sharing this. This is like so important. And I know that Stanley Graf with his ex-wife, Christina Graf, wrote about this. And when I read this, and with other people as well, when I read this, I was like, oh my God, yeah, I wish there's more and more talk about the spiritual emergency so that it's worked with, like positively. And I really appreciate how you've worked with it, with the little, maybe none support that was available to you at the time. Yeah, I mean, I've met you, I think, also through the non-local community where Edward at the beginning. And then for a while, we would just touch base. I appreciate something you did not speak of, your connection to the Middle East. And I really feel very connected. I resonate with that connection a lot. And your through your the lineage of your daughters from their father's side, and all the energies that come with that, and the compassion towards that, and the ability to hold such complex, history and legacy, and and for you, it's on a personal level, I guess. It extends to the way you hold spaces in the in your capacity in those shamanic experiences for those around you in the different realms. But also, this is like a realm on its own. And on a personal level, I really appreciate the way you hold that with a lot of compassion and love. And I'm very grateful that to be in the same space with you. Again, thank you.
And I thank you so much. Thank you so much. And yeah, I was going to say something about the Middle East connection, and I lost it somewhere along
There you
the
go.
line.
It's there.
But yes, thank you for bringing it up. Very big part of me. Very big. Thank you, Faten. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here in this space, and I love you.
Thank you. I love you too. Yeah. So, my name is Faten Qalawi, and I am a Palestinian who was born in diaspora. Both my parents are Palestinian who were born in Palestine before 1948, and then had to leave with being expelled out with the formation of the State of Israel. And so I was born in Kuwait to a legacy of refugees, having to be a refugee. And I'm 60 years old now, as I mentioned, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the journey that I have had on Earth in this lifetime. With all of it. I mean, with the difficult parts and the easy parts, and the easier parts as well. I am a mother of 4 now beautiful adults who are all also working in around creativity. My eldest is working in the healing arts, and she is a spiritual singer as well, and different modalities that are healing modalities, sound healing and Sufi dancing and art. She's an art activist as well. The youngest of my daughters is an herbalist and also into food sustainability and creative work around food sustainability as well. My boys are, the youngest is 20 years old, and he is interested in music, and he is still studying and involved in creative work as well around music. And then my older son is a sound engineer and a welder, and he is a father to a beautiful 8-year-old that he's been a stay-at-home dad to raise him up. I'm a spiritual counselor using few modalities, in specific modalities, to do this spiritual counseling with people. And these are depth hypnosis, which is a combination of transpersonal psychology applied by Buddhist psychology, applied shamanism, and hypnotherapy and energy, different energy healing modalities. This is a method that of a healing method that has been introduced to the world and by a lady called Isa Gosardi, who has come up with this modality, and I have been trained and certified by her school, which is the Sacred Stream Foundation out of California, to be a practitioner, helping people addressing their whatever they need to address from this point of view with this modality, which I'm very happy to be doing because I feel that it is a very useful and effective modality in addressing all kinds of ailments and integrating and very integrative to people, as it has been for me as well. I'm also an applied shamanic counselor, and I'm also a level 1 trained internal family systems practitioner. Originally, I graduated in 1987 from Kuwait University, from studying with a Bachelor of Science in Mathematical Statistics, applied physics, and computer science. I also studied Montessori education for all stages in order to make sure that I cover my children up while they're growing up in terms of their education. But I found that it was Spirit really guiding me to cover me in terms of understanding developmental psychology from the point of view of Montessori, which I'm so appreciative of. I love it. I am currently in the Middle East after having lived for 25 years, the last 25 years in Canada. I'm also a Canadian. So I have moved back to the Middle East after October 7 because I just felt the call of this part of the world to very strongly to be here and to offer services to this part of the world. And it's proven to be really, I have to say, in a time of turmoil and fear, I have never felt as much peace and as safe as I have ever felt all of my life. I've never felt as safe and as at peace as I have since I've come back to this part of the world around 8 months ago. What else can I say? I think I've in my talk with all of you about the way I resonated with each one of you, I kind of disclosed a lot of my own experiences. I've grew up with a sense of no belonging. I think that was the biggest injury for me since I was very little. Since I was very little, I've had a lot of existential questions, but I also had this sense of where do I belong as a human being? And I think that's not strange for someone who's, for a Palestinian who's born in diaspora. There's a lot of that feeling of where is my land, where is my community within communities, and all the practical issues that come around belonging and being able to belong in a certain society, having rights like the other people in that society, and duties, and even things as simple as being able to stay in the same country in order to finish your education once you've hit 18 because you carry the nationality of this country or you don't. And I think this is the life story of a lot of, not just Palestinians, but any nation that has, experienced occupation and experienced being refugees. Although I have to say, I didn't experience it as severely as Palestinians, for example, who were in refugee camps, because my parents, with time, were able to get the Jordanian citizenship. So still, we did feel the backlash of that experience. So it was the issue of belonging, and it showed up in a lot of my experiences all of my life. And I have to say, it charted the path for healing. It was one of those things that needed healing. And I think belonging is a very spiritual injury. When we don't belong, at least when I did not feel belonging, I didn't know what to trust. A lot of the big questions of why the pain, why the war, why the discrimination, why all of these from a very young age, even if I did not understand it, I still felt it. And I felt it in my environment. I felt it in my body. I felt it. It resonated in my dreams, in the nature of my dreams, and in my sensitivity. So the blessing of that is that it imprinted me with a certain sensitivity, spiritual sensitivity, that motivated my search again and again and again, until I got to the point where I started to do my work, my own spiritual work, after many spiritual emergencies across my life. I think that the spiritual emergency comes through so many doors. And for me, it was through the death of so many people. It was through the birth experiences of my children. It was through my own struggle as well, in so many different ways. And I always had a lot of visitations in my dream world. Yes, and then when 2019, I decided I wanted to get deeper into understanding and trying to find my own answers to my spiritual seeking. I decided I was going to address that through studying depth hypnosis and applied shamanism, and the different energy modalities. And I've been on a journey since then. I was my own subject to start with, so it was very experiential. And I think it's a blessing. I am in this position now where I feel so much peace and rootedness. I don't feel anymore that I have a difficulty with non-belonging. I feel that I belong, but it's interesting because where I belong to is somewhere inside of me, like a central. What I was looking for was, as usual, as we all know, is right at home, and home was inside. And I take it with me everywhere. So, and from that place, I wanted to help others as well, to help others find that for themselves. So I am grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be in this space. I think I was lucky, whatever that means, lucky to have been invited to the spaces that you've created, Edward, a few years ago, and to the non-local community. And look at us now in this place, talking about all these things, and in the space that is inviting for everyone else to come in and share with us. And I remain to be grateful for all of this. I think I'm going to stop with this now, and then we'll see what comes up as we progress.
I'll go ahead and resonate with you, Faten. So I think you joined the non-local community through a mutual friend, and she didn't stick around, but you did, and I'm very appreciative of you sticking around, because in many ways I feel like you're almost a counterpart. Like I was raised in a refugee type of environment in Southern California. My mom's side of the family was escaping war-torn Lebanon. And so I struggled with the sense of not belonging and identity of, I didn't feel fully Arab, I didn't feel fully American, and just didn't know where I belonged or where I fit in. And I think what's been very healing for me is to experience somebody who is just as intellectually oriented as I am, with an Arab history, that understands the cultural background that I come from. And so I feel an instant rapport with you in terms of, sharing values, sharing attitude, sharing intellectual curiosity, and the willingness to engage and being able to participate at that level. So it's been very healing for me to have you in my life you're also, facilitating some spiritual counseling for me as well. And I am truly appreciative of your ability to be with me and hold me as I work through my reactivity and some other things that are going on. You're facilitating soul part exchanges. That has been probably the most effective thing for me at this point in my life, where going back to significant relationships that I've had and just cleaning up the energetic exchange that took place. So psychically going in and then just revisiting those relationships and bringing them to closure energetically in terms of the process, my entanglement with them. So I've really appreciated that and that the care that you have given to weaving the container of your practice. So I'm deeply appreciative of you feeling like you belong to the spaces that I create. That's deeply honoring, because that's all I want anybody to feel when they participate, is that they're welcome and that they are wanting to come back and participate some more. So I consider you a sister in life, and very appreciative of you being on this journey with me.
Thank you so much, Edward. I consider you a brother too. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'd like to go next. Faten, I have to say, I admire and appreciate your beautiful, eloquent, analytical, scientific mind, and that it's so beautifully blended with your heart and your compassion and your capacity to be with people, to truly be with people and to experience people as deeply as you do. It's so, I love being around analytical people, brilliant people, scientific people. And I've been so fortunate to have been around so many who have the capacity to not only be that, but to be able to marry and integrate their soul into their world and in their relationships. And you exemplify that capacity. So thank you. I love that about you deeply.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it.
Thank you. Thank you.
And yeah. And the Middle East, right? As we've talked, I also had the call to do something to support the women and the children in the Middle East. My children are half Iranian, and being half Iranian, they also had a problem with belonging, but in different ways than both of you. My husband wasn't planning on being an Iranian refugee from the Iranian Revolution, but he came to school here, and then the revolution occurred, and his father begged him to not come home. And I also resonate on the not belonging. By the time I was 18, we had moved 21 times in my life, and not because of any war, but because of very unstable parents. And there was always a not belonging, an experience of not belonging. And until I married someone from the Middle East, till I married an Iranian and was welcomed into his lovely family. And I fell in love with the Iranian culture and the family unit. And I never experienced such an amazing cohesion of family and just how important family is. So I have a very fond experience of the Iranian culture. And my children, my oldest daughter is very much an activist in support of what's happened in Iran for a long time. She's been very active with her cousins in Iran. She talks to her cousins a lot. My youngest daughter is an immigration attorney. whose first year of practice out of law school was, the first year that Trump was in office and did what he did, and banned those Middle Eastern countries. And so we've been very involved, in some way. They've been very involved. And when I was 18, I told my husband, because I got married when I was 18, I told him, Faten, let's move to Iran. I have nothing here. I have no family here. If we go there, I'm going to have family, I'll have real family. He's like, no, I'm not taking you to Iran. And so I resonate on the struggle and especially with the call and the suffering, that needless suffering that happens. Also, I resonate with the sacred stream. I interviewed Isa Giardi, and saying her name correctly. There's an interview with her on my YouTube channel, and would love to take that training. So that's still on my bucket list, and hopefully she's still teaching in a few years.
Yes. Yeah.
I would love to learn from her. I also resonate on the shamanic experience as well, doing the shamanic work, because I too do shamanic work, and that we can, we've had some conversations, yes, and there's a depth and a richness that you bring, that I experience, that you bring into the space, whether we're talking just you and I catching up, or whether we're in a group. It's very evident that you are communicating, that you are being with in a space from your whole being. It's very obvious that you carry your belonging with you wherever you go, because I can resonate with that sense of, I can feel you carrying your home within you. I can feel that wholeness within you. And you're such an eloquent expression of depth and richness and presence. And I'm so grateful that Edward has brought us together, and I've gotten to meet you. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Elizabeth. I feel so seen and affirmed by you. Almost like, wow. Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
My turn.
Yeah.
Faten, thank you. It's funny, the contrasts and ways I'm sitting here listening to everyone comparing and contrasting, because in a lot of ways, I feel like in a lot of ways, sort of almost an opposite experience from what you've gone through. I know I haven't done the introduction yet, but I grew up and stayed in one place for 20 years on a giant farm in like southern United States, and a lot of what you've had to go through and what you've gone through was so far from the experience I had growing up. And there's not many people I would be happy to shut up and listen to for a long time, and you're definitely one of them. And that's really what struck me, is that I think you have so much to offer, and I really want to hear more from you. And I really appreciate, I'm so far from being able to understand all of the experiences you've gone through, but I know that you have brought presence, inquiry, seeking, and you've done your work to find that home within yourself. And to have gone through such a disparate background, and to have continually brought your best self, work to bring your best self into that, to those tears we may all experience, and bringing your spiritual presence and your spiritual intention to work on that, and to bring that integration and that synthesis and that healing that you say that you do carry with you, as well earned. And I think we all need to hear about that and more from you. So I appreciate it so much for your dedication and for the path you've walked in this life. So thank you. And I look forward to hearing more from you.
Thank you so much, Thomas. And I really, really, really firmly not believe, I know that we all can do this. We all have that potential. Now, whether that potential we are, going to endorse it, but it's there, it's dormant. Like no one does not have it inside of them as a dormant potential, sometimes not so dormant, but I just know that we have it. It's not like there is no question in my mind that we do. And I'm really grateful that you would speak to that. Thank you. I am also very eager to hear about your experience. So your turn now. Yeah.
For the record, where is everyone? I'm in the Eastern time zone of the U.S. in North Carolina. Elizabeth, you said Tahiti. I have no clue what time it is there right now. Edward's in Texas. Sorry, y'all speak for yourself. You're muted, though.
And I am in Amman, Jordan.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's 9:00 in the morning on Saturday, the 31st of June.
2 p.m. here. How about you, Faten? What
It's
time
10
do you got?
p.m. in Amman, Jordan on Friday.
That's incredible.
Yes.
So Elizabeth's in the future, I think. That would be how
no,
that
she's
works,
in the
right?
past.
No, you're in the past. You're like the last person.
I am in the future.
Yeah, I haven't crossed over the date line yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm your future, guys. I'm in the future. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. Thank you. Goodness gracious. It's funny seeing the themes. Another theme I noticed was we all seem to do have that time where we've really stretched out, be that marrying a foreign person or moving a lot or just really pushing an experience and then having to find something within that is maybe asking to be integrated. In terms of home, so it's a weird juxtaposition in my mind of my own story. On the one hand, that I already referenced, being that I grew up on a Christmas tree farm, 50 acres in the foothills of upstate South Carolina. So that's one key piece that really set the tone of my childhood. And especially after middle school, the amount of time I could just walk around this property. My brother had gone to college, so I had a lot of time to myself. Later, I think I agreed and really tried to incarnate in that situation to give myself that time to set seeds of spiritual inquiry and have plenty of time to really look at who's doing the looking. But then there's another piece, which is this 1 foot in this world and 1 foot in this world. Always feeling like I'm straddling these two worlds, even in my smaller region. So like I had the farm, but my parents were educators. My dad was a Spanish professor. My mom also taught at the high school. So we were in a college town, but I was like 20 minutes outside of the college town. So on the one hand, there's this intellectual environment with my dad's colleagues whom I knew. And on the other hand, like a lot more local folks who maybe hadn't traveled as much being on the farm. And I was always like, which world do I belong in? The classic, am I this one or this one? And pre-integration, I suppose. Another one was like Southern. So my dad's from the North Carolina mountains and my mom is from Philadelphia, which especially back then was like this big divide. Like she was the foreign girl when she came down south. And so there's city and there's country, there's north and south, intellectual land, So there's all these contrasts that took a long time and definitely probably contributed, I guess, to an identity crisis. Like, who am I within all of this? Because any of my friends got this part of me, but not this other part of me. And so a lot of it was, that was the context, the milieu in which I was walking around the farm and starting the seeds of my spiritual work. Anyway, I'll just have to let it go. I feel like there was one other thing, but we'll let it go. See if it comes back. So what happened is I went to college in Chapel Hill, and thought I was going to study astrophysics. And this was what I thought would explain the depths of the universe. So like wormholes and black holes and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, that's the answer. That's where the answer is. Loved it until I took the advanced calculus class and was like, this is all math. Oh my God. Like, this is not it. So the pivot to psychology for the same reason, which was, okay, the answers aren't through the telescope and on the, beautiful mathematics. Maybe they are there. I don't know. But at the time, psychology seemed more relevant to understanding the world and how people worked. So I went into psychology. Somewhere along the way, I was like, I'm going to have to work. So I picked up media production, which is still how I earn my income for the most part, doing video work and editing. But somewhere along the way, I ran into a spiritual group around age 18 or 19 called the Self-Knowledge Symposium, where I met some of my still closest friends. And this was like every week. This was the reason to be in school at that time. It was like I did a good in class, but this group was it. I was like, this is getting there. You're on the trail of something. Like, I'm on the trail of this. So that just took off from about age 20 to 25, lived and breathed it. That's all I really cared about. It seemed the only relevant, important thing to be doing. Early 2000s, somewhere in there. Also crossed paths with the Truth and Transmission group that Edward knew about, and he's just a couple years older than me, so I missed him by a couple of years and came back around 15 years later, I suppose, to finally meet. So a lot of that happened and went through, as tends to happen when you're that focused on something, a number of pretty profound experiences that still greatly affect me to this day, in certain ways. And then after those sort of peak experiences, the endeavor sort of wound down over a few years, in the recognition that, these weren't going to solve the how do I live in the world questions necessarily. They may influence it, but it's not, where do I work? Where do I live? Am I going to get married? All those questions were not on the table. And then they started to creep back in as age started to happen. And what I've found is that I think it was in the zeitgeist, actually. In that 2000s, I'm a student of history as well. There's these periods of more interior work and there's periods of exterior action. So I found that real intense time that a lot of people I know go through from like the 2000s to about 2010 started to wrap up. And a lot of people started to do healing work at that point, myself included, discovering repressed and suppressed traumas, getting into ancestral and family karmas and why am I the way I am? What energies did I inherit that feel off? Where do those come from? How can you move those? Can you heal them? That was really the emphasis for a long time. And I think that's where that integration and that feeling of starting to carry home with me started to strengthen. And then most recently for me was more purposeful. So it's like, okay, I've been through these intensive group work. I've done some healing, which continues. And I think I have another round of that coming up pretty soon. But it was, how can I synthesize this and create an offering? And I think that's kind of where you all and our cohort here, that's where I feel like I'm mostly caught. All of us we were all working to synthesize something and try to find how to bring that out into the world. And I think this podcast is a bit of a continuation of that, to an extent. So that's, I suppose, the nutshell. I'm sure that's the sort of biographical data. I'm trying to think if there's other pieces. So I'm hearing buzzing. Anyway, so where I'm at now is I've just passed through a 2-year period of caregiving for my father, who recently transitioned about 6 weeks ago. I run my own media production company. I've been trying to do a podcast as well for a few years and hope that comes back around. Recently completed Elizabeth's ITTC coaching school and put the coaching business again. It went a little bit dormant as I was caregiving, and I'm hoping to reawaken that coming up in this year. And I'm married. I've traveled a good bit. So my wife is South Korean. She's currently visiting her family. Spent significant time in Italy, lived in South Korea for a couple years, spent time at Buddhist temples, these kinds of things. But I don't know, that's just the data. I feel like I'm missing the sort of qualitative component, but we can get to that later. So that's sort of my nutshell. And I appreciate being here. Thanks, y'all.
Thomas, I want to say that, first of all, it is such an honor to be in the same space with you. I mean, every time we were in spaces, I energetically was very inspired and actually soothed by the energy that you bring into the space. You've got this, I mean, now I know. I mean, you've been raised on this Christmas tree farm, and you walk between, you were raised between these two spaces, the intellectual and the very connected to the land. And it's that connection to the land that I really love that you bring with you into these spaces. That's beautiful, really. I mean, it's I've always sensed something and I couldn't really name it, but today you kind of helped me see that it's where it's, it was born, maybe. And most probably you bring it with you as a soul. That's why you were born there to start with. But I'm very grateful for that. I really, I love being around you, and I love listening to your, you speak in this calm, and very beautiful, inviting, tender, and it's just very loving. You bring a lot of love with you, and I really love that. Thank you so much. I resonate a lot with the synthesis that you talk about, when you talk about synthesis. I think this is really one of the things that not just I resonate with, but I feel like I also want, and I feel that's something that maybe we all need. So much is being offered now. So many different things are available. And it's challenging actually to discern what to let in or not let in, and what would be supportive, healing, conducive, all of it. And then after letting in, how do we synthesize this? The word synthesize is really touched me a lot when you were talking about it. And I know that this kind of space will offer this chance of looking at the different ways we can, engage that discernment and look at different ways to welcome that synthesis. So I'm really, really glad that you spoke about that, and I really resonate with it. Thank you so much. And beautiful to see you navigate all these spaces as well. I mean, the way, with so much grace, you've navigated the departure of your dad. And it's really touching to see you, and inspiring, I have to say. This might be not so, I don't know if it's sensitive or not, but it's really inspiring to see how the way you've navigated that experience as well, with a lot of grace. And I'm very grateful to have been able to be in your field as you work through that. Thank you. Thank you for being you. Yeah.
Thank you, Faten.
I'd like to go next. Thomas, from the moment that I remember talking to you, I was impressed by the gentle, nurturing spirit that you have, that Faten has spoken to already. Again, you are an example, a beautiful example of a safe man. Both you and Edward exemplify healthy masculinity. And personally, I'm very grateful for that. And the world needs more examples like you and Edward of what it means to be, a healthy man and to be in your masculinity and still be able to also have that welcoming, nurturing, safe invitation to be yourself. So I just want to say that exudes from your spirit, from your aura. And I'm so grateful for you. As Faten said, thank you for being your true self, for being you. And I remember when, and hearing you talk about, that you were going to go into astrophysics. Like I said, I'm kind of a, wannabe scientist. I'm not a scientist, but, I wanted to be one. And if I had different parents, maybe I would have gone in that direction. I would have still been up here. I would have been here. But I love to hear that you were good. I don't know that I knew that. Did I know that? Did I forgot? I'm sorry if I did. But I love that you've been, exploring the truth and how things work through all of these different aspects of life, and still coming to the space within you. And one of the things that when we talked about you potentially coming to the school, was like, oh my God, I can do that. I can be me. I can bring my spiritual nature into this profession and do that. And I remember that moment that you realized that you could be yourself professionally, that you could bring your whole self into your profession. It was such a touching moment. And I really resonate with you in that moment, that point of recognition that you have permission to be yourself. It is such a powerful experience. And I'm so grateful to have gotten to share that and witness that special moment in you. I find it very interesting that we've all had some experience of belonging, not belonging, trying to figure out belonging, I find that really fascinating. And I would be very curious to hear how specifically you integrated and synthesized all of these aspects of your life into being who you are. And the fact that you've given yourself permission to be who you are. And what I'm seeing is that even in all of the different explorations, is it science, is it psychology, is it what, is it this, that I'm seeing those were all valid parts, of you exploring the world and the courage that it took. So one of the things that I'm experiencing as I'm listening to you share is the courage that you've had to be able to do all of this, to be able to synthesize, to be able to look in different directions and change directions, and to be honest and say, oh, that's not where it's at for me. Let's take a look at this. That takes a lot of courage. So many people don't change in, the horse in midstream because they think they shouldn't. And so I want to recognize the level of courage that you've demonstrated as well in honoring that voice within you that was speaking truth to you in those moments. I think that's very profound. and a gift that others can hear from your sharing and can take away, that it's okay to acknowledge and to be honest in the moment and say, yeah, okay, I don't think this is it for me. Let's go look someplace else. I'm so grateful that you did that.
Thank you. I'm grateful to have found you and your offering as well. That was huge.
Yeah, well, that's the beautiful thing about getting to do what's ours to do, right? Is we get to invite others to do what's right for them. It's that ripple effect, that you're having, that you're going to have now. And you have been in this transition period for the last 2 years. And you did dedicate yourself to your family and to your parents during this journey of your father's illness and his passing. And that's another thing that stands out about you that I greatly appreciate and admire and respect, is that you did make the effort to do that. Not everybody does. And you were very involved, with the daily care of your father. And that says a lot about who you are as a soul and as a person, as a human being. And I agree with Faten that I don't know the right word. Inspiring is a word, We usually don't say that in relation to the death of a loved one. But I don't know that I've ever observed or witnessed anyone be with the death of their beloved the way you have with your father. And I'm very touched and I'm very moved. And it really demonstrates who you are. So thank you so much. Love you.
Love you too. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. I'm bringing up the caboose. I think we both acknowledge and recognize that we have mirrored each other a lot, Thomas, in terms of, the emotional stages that we're going through and the life transitions that we're going through. We both took Elizabeth's school together. I kind of suckered you into going there, but we've been mirroring each other a lot. We've both been through the flavor of spiritual teaching left behind by Richard Rose, and have been profoundly impacted both by it. So, and we both have kind of the same attitude towards the aftermath of all of that. So I view you as a brother in life and consider you a lifelong friend as well. And I was so happy to have met somebody else who's been through the same experience as I have with Tat. So it was very healing to me for us to develop our friendship. I appreciate that. Yeah. And we did find each other on the Assist forum, and that's how we got started. And then we went to non-local community. Then I and Faten have been dialoguing with each other ever since for several years now. So it's been integral. And the same, the grace that you've shown with the care of your father in his decline and has been inspiring. I mean, it's hard to use that word, but you've done so much to care for others around you and to put yourself on the back burner. I'm looking forward to seeing you get to be who you want to be now. And I think that's all. There's nothing that's in the way anymore from that happening. And I appreciate getting to be a part of that as well.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I love you, man.
Love you too.
Well, I think this is the end of our episode. Would anybody like to say anything to close us out? Or do we want to sit here for a little bit and just resonate in the space?
Well, I'd like to say, so I feel, I want to reflect back on the episode today. So I felt today that, in our communication, naturally emerged a way of relating that is that I hope to be very inspiring to others. And I felt that the space, although we were maybe talking about historical connections with each other, but these historical connections felt to me as if they are maybe providing, or I hope that the listeners can find in them the basis or the building blocks of the space that is being opened or provided for them to step into. I felt today more than ever that this showed, a very solid base, a grounded and healthy interaction. And I think that, it was a way of showing the history of each one of us and what we're bringing into that space and co-weaving together. So I felt today that the possibility of what can come from these different experiences and backgrounds and way of exploration is delicious to me. I can't find any other word that is more delicious than this word. It could be delicious. So I felt a flavor, like a lot of flavor. And it is a beautiful space of, with so many flavors and colors that are possible. So I just want to say that this is what I felt. And I'm expressing that and offering it to the listeners as well. So hopefully that at one point the space will be a space that we can open for others who would like to as well come with their stories as well and offer as well. And I just feel so hopeful. I want to say, yeah.
Thank you, Faten.
Welcome. Thank you, all of you.
And I think that there's the themes that came from today that were similar yet maybe different that people could examine, like the conversation about belonging and the conversation, that Thomas is talking about synthesizing, all of those different experiences in life and coming into that place where he is now. And for the listeners to be thinking about what has their journey been and what have they been synthesizing and what is happening now because of past coming together and blending and now, and how has that brought them here? And now at this point, what is being asked to be synthesized as they move forward in life, and what might that be growing or evolving in them? What might be arising to be cultivated? So there's so many themes here that we talked about, and the conversations about the intellect and nurturing, cultivating the intellect and integrating that non-local self, that non-linear self, the expanded self into and allowing those to coexist together and to be a creative power as they're integrated, both the analytical mind and the essence of the soul. So I think there were some really great themes in today's conversation that people can take away and chew on for themselves.
Yeah. Beautiful, lovely.
Absolutely. And I actually took a lot of those notes down, which I'll share with you all later for topics. But it struck me right at the end I was like, oh, that's the feeling of coming home right there. At least one of them.
Yeah.
Being with your lovelies. Thank you.
All right. I think we should let Faten get to bed now.
Yeah.